for so many people. COVID-19 doesn't take away some of their other health issues as well. More than 37 million people are living with chronic kidney disease in the United States. To talk more, let's bring in Dr. Lisa Cohen. She is the chief of nephrology.
Nephrology.
Yes, over at Beaumont Hospital. Great to have you with us, Doctor. How are you today?
Thanks, I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
So give us a little snapshot into your life over the past year.
Sure. Well, it's been a little tumultuous, to say the least. We had a real onslaught of our patients come in with COVID-related complications starting in March. And we had a flood of other patients in the hospital afflicted with COVID who actually developed acute kidney problems related to the COVID. So we were pretty overwhelmed in March and April. We treated a lot of patients who were in our ICUs and on our floors with COVID-related pneumonia who also suffered some kidney side effects as well. Things have calmed down a little bit since then, but we're still seeing the effects of the pandemic.
And for some of those patients, have they had a lasting effect because of COVID-19 on their kidneys?
Most of them have recovered kidney function as they've recovered lung function and as they've recovered overall function. Some of them remain with chronic kidney disease as an effect. Many of the patients who we see were already affected with kidney disease, and some of them had suffered some worsening of disease related to the COVID.
So March 11th, tomorrow, is a day that is set aside to recognize World Kidney Day. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the effects that people with kidney disease are living with? How does it impact their body and their day-to-day life?
Well, one of the reasons we have a day designated for kidney awareness is because often people don't have any symptoms, and the symptoms develop only when the kidney disease is very advanced. So we want to make sure people know that kidney disease is something that people at risk need to be screened for, need to be watched for, because we often don't pick it up until there are symptoms, which is pretty late in the course. So when most of the people who have chronic kidney disease in this country have no symptoms at all, and they often have high blood pressure, they have other associated diseases like diabetes, but it can be pretty late in the course till a person might know that they have kidney disease.
Dr. Lisa Cohen with us here on the MegaCast. She's with Beaumont Hospital. And so are there some early warning signs that people should look out for?
I think the most important thing is to be screened if you're at risk. And the people who are at risk are primarily people with underlying conditions. And the two that are most common in this country are high blood pressure and diabetes. In addition, there are certain ethnic groups who are at higher risk. For example, African Americans, Hispanic patients, Native Americans also carry a higher risk of developing kidney disease. So I think the most important thing to get across is that people who have risk factors need to be screened by their primary physicians. And probably the most important test that should get done is a urine test, looking for protein in the urine. Also blood tests looking at kidney function as well.
So if someone is at higher risk, is this genetic? If you have, if your parents or other family members have chronic kidney disease, is it genetic?
There are genetic kidney diseases that are specifically cause kidney disease. For example, polycystic kidney disease is actually quite common and is the most common cause of genetic kidney disease in the world, actually. But there are certain genetic risks to developing kidney disease as a result of high blood pressure and diabetes. I wish we knew why some people with diabetes develop kidney disease and some don't, or why some people with high blood pressure develop and some don't. But there certainly does seem to be an increased risk if you have a family member who has those conditions and kidney disease.
So you said one of the things individuals that are at high risk should be doing is getting a screening. How often should they get that screening? Is it once a year, once every 5 years?
So if you have diabetes, your doctor should be checking your urine for protein at least once every 6 months or so. And that's a simple office urine test. It can be done in the office with a dipstick, which you put into a urine sample, and it tells you if you've got protein or blood or other things that shouldn't be in the urine. Patients with high blood pressure should be getting screened at least once a year for protein in the urine, and their kidney function ought to be checked at least once a year as well. And that's a blood test.
What about age? Is this something that is typically in older adults?
Well, the older you are, the more likely you are to have kidney disease, and that's mostly because the lion's share of kidney disease develops from chronic underlying conditions. So the diabetes that causes kidney disease often doesn't affect the kidneys unless you've had it for 10 to 15 years. So it takes a while for the kidney to be affected, and the same goes for hypertension. So really, age is the most important risk factor for developing kidney disease as well as underlying conditions.
Dr. Lisa Cohen with us here on the MegaCast. She's the chief of nephrology. I'll get it right by the end of the show. With us here on the MegaCast, she's with Beaumont Hospital. And with that, Doctor, we are still in the middle of the pandemic. You know, hopefully we are on the backside of this pandemic, but how has COVID-19 impacted so many people who are already suffering from kidney disease?
Sure. So we do know that having kidney disease does seem to put you at increased risk of developing more severe COVID complications. So that that along with the conditions that go with kidney disease, so high blood pressure, diabetes, other underlying problems like heart disease, vascular disease, they all run together. So we do know that our patients with kidney disease do run into more severe COVID-related illness. Whether that's the kidney disease or the things that cause it is a little bit hard to tease out. One of the populations that we've had we've taken a lot of care to protect is our dialysis population, because they are extremely vulnerable. Not only do they have a lot of underlying health issues, but they all come to a dialysis unit 3 times a week to dialyze, and you can imagine that a space full of people who are vulnerable and possibly ill is a bad place to think about spread of the disease as well. So it's been a place we've been very vigilant about keeping as safe and clean and protected as possible.
So how is that working then right now? I mean, is it just a matter of trying to space out the patients as to when they're coming in for their treatments?
Well, they all come in around the same time, although we've staggered them some. Everybody who goes to a dialysis unit gets screened when they come in for fevers and symptoms. And we all wear gowns and masks and face shields, and we wash hands and do all the other things to keep the area clean. So when a patient is suspected of having COVID, they have to go dialyze at a patient unit or a session that's specifically dedicated to COVID. So I would say overall we've been doing remarkably well keeping the dialysis unit free of spread, and hopefully that'll continue. Right now, one of the things that we would really love to have is the ability to vaccinate those patients, which has been a bit of a challenge.
So with that, would they not fall under people with a chronic illness to be able to get vaccinated?
Well, they just started vaccinating persons 50 and over with chronic disease, but a lot of our patients are not 65 and older, which was the initial second wave of vaccinations. So we're getting there, but it would be terrific to have the vaccinations being given in our dialysis units. So we'll get there soon.
Well, hopefully. I know that the Biden administration is going to be announcing today that they have purchased 100 million more doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So hopefully people such as those that are suffering in your group will be able to get the vaccine sooner rather than later. I know that Beaumont is going to be hosting a community discussion tomorrow. Tell us more about that.
Sure. Well, we love doing this in person, and this is the first year we haven't been able to have an open forum and a walk-in information session and actually personal assessment by a nurse and a doctor. But we are adapting the best we can. So tomorrow from 11:30 to 12:30, we're actually having a virtual World Kidney Day event, and I can tell you how to get on. It's we ask you to go to a website address, and I can tell you what it is. It's nkfm.org/WKD. And what it's going to be is a panel discussion with a nephrologist, who will be me, a dietitian, and one of our patients who's living with kidney disease. And what we really want to share is what you can do to become aware of kidney disease if you're at risk, what you can do to prevent kidney disease from progressing, how you can live well with kidney disease, and also some tips on a healthy lifestyle that will hopefully delay kidney disease for as long as possible in those who have risk factors. So it's going to be a multifaceted discussion among many of us who are involved with kidney care on a daily basis.
And so what time does that start?
It's at 11:30, and it's going to be an interactive online discussion, and you're able to submit questions if you'd like to do that before. We have a site on that website, the nkfm.org/WKD. You're able to submit questions, and we'll address them on the program.
With us here, Dr. Lisa Cohen over at Beaumont Health. They will be hosting a virtual community discussion tomorrow, March 11th at 11:30, to be talking more about kidney disease and living well with kidney disease. And if I can ask you, can this be reversed if you catch it early enough?
It depends what causes it. And that's the key here, is that most of the time by the stage where people develop symptoms of kidney disease, for example, swelling in the feet, trouble breathing, fatigue, these are all things that happen when a person's kidney function falls below about 10%. And you wouldn't typically see any symptoms until somebody's kidney function is below, say, 30%. By the time we see symptoms, there may not be a whole lot that we can do to reverse the process. So that's why this is so key to diagnosing early. For most people who develop chronic kidney disease, the key is going to be controlling the factors that cause it. So the diabetes, hypertension, sometimes there are other less common diseases that we can treat with steroids or other medicines. So often we can at least slow the process, but if we wait until a person has symptoms, there may not be a whole lot we can do but prepare to treat the sequela. So that's why we like to get in at the beginning and diagnose the kidney disease early.
So before we say goodbye, can we talk a little bit about transplants? Is that an option?
Absolutely. And I always say that if you took 100 nephrologists and asked them what they would do if their kidneys fail, all of them would say transplant. It is absolutely the best way to live a normal or almost back to normal life if your kidneys have failed. So transplant is an option for many people. It's not for everyone, but it's definitely something everybody who is living with kidney disease should think about if their kidney disease is progressing. There are about 90,000 people in this country waiting for a transplant, and we like, also part of Kidney Day is just raising awareness of the need for transplant as well. So
for people who, should they sign their donor card on their driver's license?
Absolutely, yes. Everybody should do that. If there are any questions about that, there are plenty of resources on the kidney.org website, which is the National Kidney Foundation. We as nephrologists are also happy to answer questions like that. But transplant is a wonderful success, and it offers some hope for our patients whose kidney disease has unfortunately progressed beyond the point where we can bring it back.
And if they're able to get a transplant, can they go on to live a pretty normal life?
Yes, yes. You have to take medications, but yes, your kidney function has been replaced by the next best thing, which is somebody else's kidney. So.
Well, Dr. Lisa Cohen, we so appreciate your time with us here today.
Thanks for having me.